Ladies and gentlemen, what's up, everybody? We are back. Another episode of your favorite show.
TUL.
Yes, TUL, the Universal Lens.
If we were on MTV, we wouldn't be the Universal Lens, we'd be TUL.
The TUL, baby.
Holy
Welcome
shit.
to TUL.
Is MTV even a channel anymore?
I don't know. Is it? It's got to be.
Yeah, it's probably, but
I don't know. I don't watch MTV.
it's not what it used to be.
Is it? It's got to be.
It's not what
Music,
it used to
television, no. Well, we are the Universal Lens, and we are back in your living room, on your headphones, on your computer screen.
In your car, somewhere.
In your car. We're not in your bedroom, but I'll tell you that.
We might be in your bedroom. If that's what you're into.
Whatever works.
Hey, you know.
They say whatever floats your boat.
The ladies need inspiration.
Whatever floats your boat. Yes, and here you go. Welcome, ladies.
We're here to give you inspiration.
My wife just gagged when I did this, by the way. As you can see, the ever-loving, ever-handsome, ever-intelligent
I don't know about
Henry Belcher is back on my right. We have not jettisoned Anthony. We're actually going to hopefully start. I'm going to try to get this done by next week to have him and start our new
triple venture.
Yeah, so we scrapped everything we were going to do. We scrapped everything we were going to do. Henry's been telling me this for months. Anthony kind of convinced me of it last week, and I kind of was like, I don't even have the time to the whole studio. We're going to kind of move over to couches and have a more relaxed scene, which I think will be nice.
I hate to say I told you so.
Yeah, no, he did tell me so. But I had the table at that point. I was like, no, we're going to use it. I mean, I had the table in the wall. I'm like, I'm going to use it now.
I'll be honest. The table might come in handy because of the
to put the equipment on, but it's going to be couches, and you'll actually see my sports paraphernalia that I have around me. I love collecting, autographed memorabilia and stuff. So I got my giant stuff. So that'll be our focal point. So deal with it. Go Big Blue.
It's all good.
It's all good. So we are back. And
by the way, congrats to Anthony for another great sit-in. I mean, he's a pro.
Did you cut him his check?
I did.
Okay.
I did. Cut him his check. Cut him out of my half. Anthony, I gave you everything I had.
Monopoly money. Here you go. You could have 500.
Dude, the guy's great, and I know I'll bring up the conversation you guys had about the guy who put his foot on his armrest.
You're making his day, by the way, by doing this. You know that, right?
And Anthony, if you're watching, I know you will be. That was a great story, and I gotta say, from an audience perspective, that story helped kind of break the normal trajectory of things, and it was a great story, and I loved how.
I think Henry just said I'm boring.
No. Because first of all, we're very clear in what we do here, right?
Yes, we try to be. We try to be. Yes.
But it's great in any conversation, right? Because even if you're at the doctor's office and the doctor's talking about something, and all of a sudden you chime in and you say, "But it's not as nice as your house. How's that going, by the way?" And it just changes things up a little bit,
Yeah.
That's all. That's all. And
it was a fun conversation.
And it was good. I liked the tension there because he was like kind of wanting you to think the way he thinks, right?
A little bit.
And that was pretty cool. I thought that was cool. And
it was. But I don't.
The topic was good too because I've been on many a plane, and I think that has to.
I've never had a hairy foot on my. I'm very thankful. I'm very grateful to the universe for that I've never experienced that yet.
That had to happen. I mean, the amount of flying I've done, I'm sure I've had it. I'm sure. I had to happen to me at some point. Everything has happened to me. I mean, literally.
Everything?
Everything. I mean, no.
Well,
actually, Mr. Mealy.
All right.
I think I'm a member of the Almost Mile High.
Oh, I didn't. Sorry. But okay,
we're all adults here.
I think yes. I think it's better for us and YouTube guidelines so we don't go any further with that conversation.
We can handle the truth,
but can you? So yeah, no, that was nice. That definitely was a fun conversation because he always does do that. Anthony wants me to agree with him on certain things like that, and you know me by now, and he's known me my whole life. But he knew a more reactive John back in the day. You've known me for a long time now also, and you've seen kind of how I've evolved and changed in the way I look at life and my perspective and everything. And, he'll still be like, I got you. Why can't you just agree with me? It's like, not that I don't agree. I agree with a lot of people on a lot of things, even in the political world or the news or whatever's happening in the world. I could agree and have an opinion. It's just, I don't take a stance. I listen to the information. I digest it, and it's active listening. It's actually, I mean, something I've done before, but it's something in coaching what they teach you to do is to hear what the person's saying, and not just to agree with them, but I give you a different perspective on how to resolve the issue or how to work through it without, banging your head against the wall or giving somebody, as Anthony said, a flying elbow in the back. Not that he would.
And I'm so happy you mentioned that.
I love him to death.
I'm happy you mentioned it because I've been having some experiences like that as of late. So I've been shadowing some court situations,
for your court interpreter. This man has more.
Well, it's, you know what? I'm going to veer off. It's like
he's like an entrepreneur beyond entrepreneur.
Well, yeah, but it's like this. It's like, hey, now that you're free, what do you think you'd like to do?
Why? I agree.
Right?
No. I mean it with as a compliment.
Right.
As an absolute compliment.
Not because we're probably driving everybody crazy. Like, yo, what? This guy does everything.
Where's the guy on the left, dude? He just sits there.
Yes. So I was fixing the car. No. No. But like I find myself in these court environments.
Mm-hmm.
And let's just say that our court system politics are not exactly aligned with mine. All right?
Okay.
And I know Anthony and I'm sure will be more brotherly on this topic.
Yes. I'm going to have to practice a lot of mindfulness.
But let me tell you this. So because I am now a little bit further down the road, whenever I got those comments thrown at me, I didn't take the bait, for lack of a better word. I didn't take the bait in the sense I didn't go down a rabbit hole because I'm identifying with a political party, a political person, and that's just it's not me. And don't get me wrong, there's certain things I'm in the same agreement with, let's say a few things, but I'm not going to sit there and go, because you hate somebody, I'm not going to sit there and go, wait a minute. That's just, first, it's kind of productive. And if you think about it, it's so silly. It's such a waste of time.
I agree. Absolutely.
So I found myself doing exactly what you just said, active listening, where, this person trashed a political figure, and all I did was go, okay. Yeah.
What benefit would be there to react to that?
Right, okay. But we are so programmed, and I say we.
Yeah.
Society is so programmed to, like, especially with politics, it's programmed in us to be something of that we should be fighting over. Because if we disagree, we should be fighting over it.
Well, I think that's kind of the norm of Western society. Is if you're not arguing about it, or if you're not arguing, because not, God forbid, we discuss things in this world. If we're not arguing about it, we're not making progress.
So there's the point. So what I'm saying is we've been programmed to fight about it, but we haven't been programmed to talk about it. In other words, why can't we talk about it without fighting? I mean, why do we have to attach ourselves? All right, so if you're a Democrat, you attach yourself to Joe Biden. If you're a Republican, you attach yourself to Donald Trump. And there's no way out. We're supposed to duke it out as proxies for them. Wait a minute. No. Like, yo, chill. You may have your views. I may have my views. And even if we don't agree, remember, we haven't always agreed on everything. Like, I don't know if you know this, but like years and centuries and eons of not agreeing. And yet you love the other person.
Yeah, or it's not about agreeing with somebody. I don't agree with most people I know. I don't. There's very few people that I see everything eye to eye with them. Like, hey, we're like, and it's just our bias at that point, right? So it's our learned bias from our childhood, from when we were brought up, our environment, surroundings, teachers, school, everything else. That I'm like, oh my God, we are just like, boom, here on everything. That doesn't happen.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that, or I should say, it should not impede relationships or destroy relationships. But the way society is today,
but
if we don't see eye to eye on something, or if we don't agree, then then we can't listen to each other. We have to just, well, I'm right. Well, keep doing that.
Well, I would say just a suggestion for people of our ilk, people that watch a show, people that practice mindfulness, people that are aware, right? If you're aware, you're going to realize that 95% of the people you come in contact with are not as aware as you are. They're not as mindful as you are. So when they hit you with this comment that...
And that's not meant to sound elitist. That's just a fact.
No.
Yeah.
Because as a matter of fact, this is going to add elitist sympathy. It's not that I'm adding to, but very simple. I empathize with the person that is still has the blindfolds on.
Because you were there once?
Yeah. And so, like, when somebody tells me, like, I don't want to live there because, it's all a bunch of Biden supporters. And it's like, I know what you mean by that. I get it. But, like, that's probably hurtful to somebody who is still blind, right? Not hurtful to me, neither one way or the other. But
because you don't take it personal. Why don't you take it personal? It's a good question. I'm not putting you on the spot. Why don't you take that comment personal anymore? Like if somebody was to say to you, "Hey, Trump or Biden, or whatever side of the fence your bias is politically," and that's not the point of the show. We could, care less about that. Like, why don't you take it personally anymore?
Because I've detached myself from that. In other words,
wish I had a button to hit applause.
You do.
I do, but I don't know how to use it, so I'm not going to because it doesn't freaking work.
I love that shit. Yeah. So, like, first of all, I got to say how proud I am that at the moment I'm identifying it, because if you know me, politics is a topic that...
Yeah, there was a point where you were like,
I love it.
We talk about mindfulness and you say politics, and Henry just became...
I love it.
The green shirt, the shirt rips, the purple pants come on, the skin turned green.
Yeah.
And he got passionate about it. Very passionate about it.
And you know what I realized? It was an unhealthy coupling, because I believe you can have your thoughts. I believe you can have your opinions.
100%.
But it was an unhealthy coupling. And to the point that 100%. My phone was going off every moment of the day.
Even like social media and stuff like that?
John, Twitter, I used to love it because...
X.
Well, X. I used to love it because I used to monitor
tweet
everybody. And
I don't know.
I used to have an alert of if this guy, like maybe 40, 50 people who I want to hear they own you, right? When they own the other guy.
They own your time. They own your mind. They own your mental space. They own your reactions. They own everything at that point.
I'm like,
they consume you.
When I said own, I mean like when they're putting somebody else down, like,
okay.
Comment A to me, my comment B to you. I own you. All that stuff. Like I was in it, and you don't realize this, but like I think the biggest lesson I've learned in this process is how, and I'm going to repeat it. I think I said it over and over again, but how you really are programming yourself daily. And
yeah, we've said this 1,000 times, right? Subconsciously, what you garbage in, garbage out, what you put in gets and gets programmed into your subconscious mind, and those become your automatic thoughts that you don't bring up, but they just kind of pop up sometimes.
I believe like you would be doing yourself a real big service to actively program yourself the way that you feel is the most beneficial programming of yourself. It sounds like I'm telling you to brainwash yourself, and brainwash yourself in a positive.
Okay, so it's not. Let's. May I?
Absolutely.
I would like to change vocabulary for a second. I wouldn't say it's brainwashing. You're not brainwashing yourself. It's to bring yourself to the point where you have the awareness and the ability to see the reactions that you normally had, whether it's about a political issue or religious, whatever it is, and understand that bias is just a bias and an opinion that your mind has. But that doesn't mean it's 100% right. It doesn't mean it's 100% wrong. It just means that's a built-in bias that your mind has. Every spiritual teacher, every person, every human being, Eckhart Tolle has said it, and I know I use him as an example because he's kind of well known. He has said it. He goes, I do have a political bias in my mind. He goes, I don't attach to it, but I could have a conversation when needed. Conversation about it. Not a, I'm right, you're wrong. My way's right, your way's wrong. Our way's better, your way's not. This side, that side. It's not that. It's, yes, I can have a bias, whether my bias leans to these values. I don't even say this side, right? Or that side, because what do people say? It's this side or that side. No, my value system is this. Your value system is this. Okay, fine. Can we discuss it? Sure, we can. But people want you to have an attached reaction to that. So when I said to you before, do you take it personal? A majority of the people who react take it as a attack on themselves. That attack isn't on the person. That's your ego. That's your bias that feels like it's being attacked because the other person is not agreeing with you. If you don't have any awareness when that happens and that bias and that egoic thinking is attacked, what's going to happen? I got to fight. I got to preserve my space. Yep. I have to say, I'm right. We need to be heard. And here comes conflict immediately. There's almost no chance at that point. But if the person has, you said this before the show, like we talked about last week, like the dying of the ego, the show I had with Anthony was about to live like you were dying. And you said, well, how do we burn the ego off? I go, you never burn the ego. It's a term that some spiritual teachers use, the burning off of the ego's gone. Sometimes later in life, as you get older, you realize you have this enlightened awareness that it doesn't matter anymore. Some people, as we see our political figures nowadays into their 80s and whatever, they are still hook, line, and sinker with that. But other people, as they get older, they realize that, wow, that's not important anymore. Like they have it, but it happens to them later in life. Your ego doesn't burn off. You become aware that it's there, and then it loses its power over you. Once it loses its power over you and you're not reacting, you're not taking things personally. And I actually think I said this to Anthony when we were in the car. I was like, but you're taking it personal that person's putting their foot on your chair, right? It's your chair. Now here it comes. Ego, mine. Ego loves to say mine, me, mine. Time out. If I don't attach to that, I could still have that person's hairy foot on and this hairy foot keeps coming up. That hairy foot on my chair, and not make it an issue, not react to it, not overreact to it, not get pissed about it, not get angry about it, not saying I'm infuriated by it, and deal with it. If I'm attached to my ego completely, do I have a fighting chance? No, I'm going to want to get up and be like, why is your foot on my, and we keep using this example because it's kind of, I don't know, hairy foot stuck in my head.
It's a good one.
It's a good one. It's funny. It's a good one. Anthony triggered me with this now. It's stuck on, it's my ego's being attacked. But if I burn my ego off, or if I allow my ego to burn off or to die, it doesn't mean it goes away. It means my awareness has become so high. It's like me taking this light. We have a backlight here, and it's on dim, but now I turn it so bright that I could see everything. When I could see everything, holy, I'm not stubbing my toe and going, what's going on? I could see everything. And that awareness allows you to see it and say, I don't need to react to any of this. I could intelligently, using a higher intelligence, navigate through this. And I think that's what you're trying to get to, that people don't have that mentality when they're talking about, you can see what's going on in the world today. I mean, we live in New Jersey, which is right by New York City, and what happened at the universities with a lot of these riots and stuff, and people, and the freedom of speech is an amazing thing, and I'm not against it at all, right? Everybody. Things get out of control.
That's it.
Because people attach. And I don't give a shit what side you're on. It's not about that. It's not which political side you're on, that side, this people, that people. If you're doing wrong to somebody, it's wrong. If you're doing something immoral, it's immoral. I don't care what flag you're flying. But people get so attached to it that they don't see another way out. And it grows and escalates. And then all those egos come into one place together. And it's like a multiplication of energy. So this egoic energy becomes, and I forgot the word that I've heard it used, and I'm sorry, I can't remember it, but there's a term that was used where it becomes like a community, where it becomes one large, energetic, egoic push. So it amplifies itself. When you have all these people together, screaming and fighting, not peacefully, but it starts to become a little bit, and breaking into dorms, whatever they're doing. That's not.
It takes on a life of its own.
It takes on a life of its own, and it snowballs because you have a lot of people who don't have an awareness to realize how we. And again, this isn't a political statement at all, but how to properly navigate something. That's an example that I just saw in the news happening recently. Two people talking in a room, you could have the same result, not on that scale, obviously, because of those people, but you could have that same result. And it's all because of an unconscious mind or the ego that's in full control at that point. Full control. And, that's where the ego doesn't die. It doesn't burn off. You just turn the light up so damn bright that you see it and you expose it for what it is. And you're like, hey, it's not a voice of awareness, but you realize all of a sudden, I don't need to overreact and to go to this place where I feel like I don't get that. While I have emotions that still come up, absolutely. Whether it's, I don't like if I see something, like a tragedy happen in the world or whoever it might be, or people getting killed or wars or this or that. I have empathy for all that, and it breaks my heart to see that happening. But I understand that if there was more awareness in the world, if there was more mindfulness, more presence, if people would just take the time to do this practice that we talk about, a lot of those things, a lot of them just wouldn't be happening. And look, you could have people who look at me, you don't understand, John, politically speaking or religiously speaking, or my people, we've been this for this many years, and my people have gone through this, and we've gone, again, watch this, my people and my people and my people and my people and their people and those people and those people, and it's a bunch of egos screaming at each other. It's all it is. So it's, if people had that light turned up to 100%, I'd even take 50%. And have somebody with half, like literally be walking around half mindful half of the way, a 50% mindfulness or 50% aware of what's going on. Like, a lot of this stuff wouldn't be. Maybe the world would be a boring place, but that'd be great. That'd be great. It'd be a mindful, quiet, aware world.
There's no doubt. There's no doubt. First of all, you can feel the difference when you're talking to a mindful person. You can feel it.
Yes, absolutely.
Just like you can feel it when you're talking to somebody who's not as aware, who's not, right? More, let's say, of what do you call the when you're not of the clergy, you are a layman, layperson, right?
Yeah, you could tell when you're talking to somebody who's still like hook, line, and sinker. Their ego's doing this to them.
Right. So
pulling the strings.
Your comment started because I used a provocative word, and I used that provocative word on purpose. Where?
Good job.
Brainwash.
Yes.
And I use that word precisely to get your attention, because I use it for the positive, not for the negative. Mm-hmm. So if I listen to Eckhart Tolle and Dr. Joe Dispenza and Bob Proctor and Jim Rohn, and if all I do is listen and read and listen, I'm brainwashing myself for the better, in my opinion, for a positive.
I understand what you're saying.
So I use the word provocatively.
I understand what you're saying.
And I want to use it provocatively to kind of put something sharp on your backside. But, whoa! Yeah. Like, I want that.
Shock you into an awakening.
Yeah. I want you to really feel it. And I'm going to.
I like that.
I'm going to bring this up to you. And you're going to be like, I never thought of that. But when you were a little kid, right? And I get, I haven't been in kindergarten for a long time, but it's been a while. It's been about 30, 40 years. 40 years in my kindergarten days. Do you remember saying the Pledge of Allegiance?
In class?
Before every day, right? Usually every day.
Well, in kindergarten, I remember. Yeah, but I remember saying it in like second, third grade. Yeah, sure.
And it was
elementary school.
It was a daily occurrence.
Yeah, right? We all stand up by our desk. It's kind of cute.
If you remember, did anybody teach you those words, or was something you just kind of learned once and you just you didn't, the first few times you really didn't know it, but like by the second, third, fourth week,
you learn it.
You learn it.
Yeah, you remember it, you learn it, you buy it, and store it in the bank.
So what do you think that is doing to the individual that's repeating, I pledge allegiance to the when you're little, you don't even know what the hell that means. I pledge allegiance. But when you're older, you realize I'm pledging allegiance to that flag of the United. When you're older, I can in retrospect tell you everything that I was doing. But when you're little, you're being brainwashed to be a patriot.
Okay.
You're being brainwashed to love.
I know exactly what you're saying. Yes.
Right. So it's hard for you.
It's not in a negative way that you're saying it either. I get what you're saying.
And now now that you got that concept, I learned this recently, and in other words, I can't unsee it. Right. So once you see it, I can't unsee it.
No, absolutely not. There's no delete button.
Scott Adams said recently that we, as humans, we don't have free will. Okay, that's a very provocative statement.
Yes, that is.
Because you're saying, okay, I want to pick up my phone. I picked up my phone.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Right?
Yeah.
So what he was getting at is that the human being, the animal, the object of a human being, and the components that we bring with it are a continuous programming instrument. In other words,
yeah, we're ever learning.
Yeah, it's not like
one and done.
Well, let me bring it back. If you were just freshly born, right, and there you are, literally, the doctor just received you from your mother's womb.
Okay.
They cleaned you up for a few minutes. They put you in this little bassinet, and they left you in the hospital room with no input, no data, no interference from anybody, anywhere. You don't have a language. You don't have a country.
You don't have an identity.
You don't have an identity. You don't have anything.
But that's, okay. I understand exactly what you're saying.
It's because the human is a continuously programmable being.
110%.
So just take that and understand that everything that we do and everything that happens to us and with us and for us and against us are all programming features of our psyche, of our train of thought, of whatever.
Agreed.
So I'm saying what Bob Proctor was kind of preaching: program yourself for the benefit of you. If you have the ability.
Okay, so when you say that, so I like what Scott. I understand what Scott Adams was trying to say when he says you don't have free will. So obviously we do have free will to move about, right?
He's being provocative.
Yeah, right. He's being provocative. It's a way to it's a good, right, to bring people in. I get that, and that's great. We don't have free will, and I think what he's trying to say, and you're kind of trying to reiterate, is because when we're born, when we come into this world, and spiritual teachers have said this many, many times, we don't have a bias yet. Our bias are given to us.
We don't have anything.
We don't have anything. So we could sculpt the human being for the most part, right? I mean, there's genetic issues and stuff like that, right? Okay, yeah, there are anomalies happen. But for the most part, we could sculpt a human being to think, to act in a certain way, especially if that human being doesn't have any awareness in it. So when you said before we pledge allegiance to the flag, I think what you were trying to say is we were programmed, and you said it, to be patriotic. And that's great. That's fine, right? We live in this country. Beautiful. It's awesome. I can be very patriotic. I live in a free country. I'm very grateful for the country I live in. I'm very grateful for everything this country has given me. I do. And I fly an American flag in my house in the Poconos. But I am not attached to any of it. I appreciate, I'm grateful for what the country, for what my citizenship has given me. I'm grateful for it. And hardline. Wow, this is really out of this is like a hard left turn for what we usually. But mindfulness is buried in here, and I think this is kind of a Scott Adams way to do it.
And only I understand what you just said.
Yeah, right.
Because anybody was like, "Yo,
yeah,
are you anti-American?"
Yeah, right. And I just, by the way, they would have glazed over the fact that I said my house in PA has an American flag that flies all the time, right? It's just over here I really don't have anywhere to put it. But over there, and I fly it and I leave it, and I fly it up. But I'm not attached.
That's right.
Like my identity isn't I'm John F. Emilio. I'm an American. I'm this. I'm red. Blah 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 blah. No, I appreciate. I love. I'm grateful for everything this country's given to me. I love this land. I love everything. I mean that in the most honest and sincere way. But at the end of the day, I could sit and talk to somebody who thinks that this land I live in is the devil's playground.
You took the words out of my mouth.
And I could have a conversation with them without, going all Uncle Sam on them and losing my proverbial shit on people. So how do I do that? You don't get offended? No, I don't take things personally. You want to know why I don't take things personally? That's why I said before, the question next to you goes, did you take that personally? And the only way you take something personally is if your ego is still in control of your thinking. Meaning the thinking mind, which is the ego, is calling the shots, and you are in the back seat saying, wherever you go, we go. Wherever you go, we go. Because your okay, wow, I don't know if I want to say this, but I think I'm going to. Your patriotic, so that patriotic thinking can be great, right? It's a great feeling, pride. You know where I live. I'm grateful for everything I have. Beautiful. The flip side of that, you go apeshit on somebody who's a sliver against what you think is the right way to be living your life. The only way that happens is if you have no awareness to realize, let me see this human being across from me and have a conversation with them instead, right? Again, this is actually anything but a political conversation. If anybody who's listening is paying attention, the common thing we keep saying, if you have awareness, if you have a little bit of mindfulness in your life, if you practice meditation, if you practice mindfulness during the day, if you pay attention to your thoughts and just watch them and take committed action to things that are useful in your life and that you value, right? Even though I value something doesn't mean that I have to go apeshit against the other person. So his values might be different from my values. I mean, I don't think they are, but they could be. And I'm sure there's things that we do have different values for, but that doesn't mean that I have to be my values. No, it's that I is the ego. Whenever you say I, it's the ego speaking. I know English language, we need to use the word I when we speak. I get that, right? I'm not saying, but whenever it becomes an issue, when now there's a conflict or an argument or a reaction and not a response, it's I. Who's I? EGO is I. Ego is I.
So this example you presented is so good.
Woo.
Is so good because it allows everybody to, let's say, parse through exactly what we're talking about. Let me explain. So if you stood in front of me and you said America is negative piece of shit, my internals are quite triggered.
Sure, and mine,
right?
So mine are too.
Right.
There's a part of me that goes, what?
Right. So
because it's there.
I want this to penetrate. So because me and you already know where we're going because we have this tunnel that we already made.
Yeah.
So, but if you're sitting across from me and you're telling me all the bad stuff about America, I am internally triggered. But I'm a mindful person, and I'm up here looking down.
Helicopter view, as I was once told by somebody.
Right. some moron. So I'm up here looking down, and I'm watching you say something bad about America, and internally I can tell I'm triggered, but is that what I'm going to do? I'm going to fly off. I'm going to say, you know what? Fuck you. No. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hear you, and I'm going to be like, look, America may not be perfect. It may not be perfect for you.
Like any country, right? It's not...
And then I would give you a good answer, meaning I'm American. So yeah, when you say things like that, for sure. And I could say things about your country or whatever. Maybe you are American. I don't know, whatever.
Where was Borat from?
Right. Kazakhstan.
Kazakhstan.
So, and I can give you all sorts of different answers, but I am always here looking at myself and how I'm going to respond, not react.
Yes.
Right? So, right. And you see how everything ties in, where I want to respond, I don't want to react, because my reaction, let me tell you what my reaction wants to take, you know what the fuck are you doing here? Get the fuck out of here then. Fucking talking all this bullshit. So that's an unaware situation, right? It's an unaware person. By the way, same person, me. I think like that. I behind the scenes,
This actually happened in my family
Right.
years ago.
behind the scenes,
Yeah.
I am.
Just brought up. You brought up a memory just
Yeah.
now. Wow.
If you don't like it, get the fuck out of here.
dude, those exact.
So,
Yeah, yeah.
so everybody knows it's true. We used patriotism and the country, and I use a very provocative word of brainwashing to really stick that needle. Oh fuck!
It's almost like an electric shock to be like you're trying to evoke a reaction from whoever's listening and watching, so they understand the message behind it. Because sometimes the only way you get somebody's attention, like you ever have somebody who's hysterical. You ever see like it's a comedy show or something, like somebody's hysterical. What do they do to the person to get them to snap out of it? Crack, right? Oh my god! And all of a sudden the person stops because now I've grabbed your attention. We're not saying smack people. We're saying he just gave you a proverbial smack through the screen. No, am I wrong? To get your attention.
I got a visual. Airplane.
Airplane. That's what I was thinking. I didn't want to say it. I was like, now these kids, nobody's gonna know what the fuck airplane was. That's when they all line up and they all smacking the freaking lady. Oh,
She's having a
the nun's there with the freaking billy club. He's gonna hit her.
line.
The whole line of people want to smack her to wake her up, right? But you just gave everybody a smack,
Right.
and the smack was like a pin to be like, what can I say that's going to trigger you? So you listen and hear the message behind the words. This has nothing to do with the country. This has nothing to do with politics. This has nothing to do with any of that. It has to do with how those all become issues because nobody has any of this. Any of this wears. And you said before, it's a funny story. What you said before, like with America, get out of here. The same thing happened. I'm not going to name names in my family because I'm resistant. The same thing happened in my family. It had to be about 20 years ago at a table. And two people who lived here, both did very well here. One person was complaining so much to the other person about this country, like complaining, like literally, because that's what Italians do, a lot of them. I love you all, but I'm sorry, it's what you all do. They complaining. The other person across the table said, if you don't like it, get the fuck out of this country. So that actually happened, and two people had an argument over it when it was just it could have been a conversation. Be like, hey, all right, you know what? Listen, I get what you're saying. That is kind of unfair that happens, and maybe there's a better way that things could be done. And even though your conversation might not solve the issue in that moment, because there's only so much we could do as the people speaking at a dinner table or at an event or something, but if enough people have that mentality, you go from being the minority to the majority. And when you're the majority, right, what do you have? You get to all of a sudden call the shots and not hope that the shots are called in your favor. And when I say call the shots, I don't mean that we now have control. It's now you have more people who are mindful in places where those decisions are very important. Imagine a government, I don't care what country you're in, run for really the benefit of everybody, not just my people, like for the surrounding people, for my neighboring countries, like for the world. Imagine every country had a mentality. I know, John, that's utopia thinking. That's never going to happen. Of course it's not going to happen if everybody keeps saying that's never going to happen because I'm attached to my ego, because I have to be this way, and that's not the way the world is. Well, if everybody wants to keep saying and that's not the way the world is, well, what shot do we have? What we try to do is, if we could get 10 people to come and say, I see things differently. I hear what you guys say. It makes sense. I'm watching, my life feels lighter ever since I started listening, or ever since I read your book, or whatever. Or, Henry, people in his family, they're reacting differently now so there you go. You started it. And imagine that grows and it grows and it grows and it grows. And you have more people who let the ego burn off because they become aware that it's actually the one that's calling the shots. Like, a lot of your issues in life tend to not feel as drastic or as threatening.
Yeah, life ending.
Because there are things that are life ending, and we understand that. And even then, presence and awareness, by the way, is a much softer landing, even for those times. Much softer landing. Yep.
I'm living it today. Today was a pretty, difficult day in the sense my old thought patterns wanted to knock on the door, hey, let me in, And it's just one of those things where, they wanted to be the noisiest person in the room. But I'm looking at it from up here going, oh, come on. Why are we going to listen to that voice? But, you mentioned this, that hypothetical, which actually happened, not hypothetical, but the hypothetical meaning of that person who gives you stimulus A, and then it's your chance to respond or react. You can respond. You can have a mindful response. But if that person is so blind, the other input A guy is so blind and so attached that your mindful response may not go anywhere, right? It might just fall up on not deaf ears, but a guy who doesn't, who's not into mindfulness and is not aware of anything. So you're just, what do you mean? It's a person who's hysterical. So coming back, mindfulness, spread more and more and more. We have a shot. Like, we have a shot at this thing.
To make the world the place that like everybody wishes it was, or to make,
And I gotta be honest, it's not a quick process.
No,
it's a slow process.
I think that's what turns a lot of people off, because they feel like, oh, I can't. Well, what can we solve? What can we do?
I think.
Well, we could. If I could make my kids better human beings, not more successful. I mean, that's always a goal, right? We want our children to be successful. We want them to, have nice jobs. We want them to be productive, and we want them to contribute to society. But if I can make them better human beings, meaning they have a moral compass, meaning that they have values, meaning that they have awareness and mindfulness in their life, right? If I could do that, then what happens? They maybe do it with their kids or with their friends. Hey, John, you're, my kid, whatever, he's in college. Maybe my son doesn't overreact to things, and he talks a friend off a ledge one day, where friends, and they have a conversation. Maybe his friend picks up on his vibe and wants to know, right? So, come here, bring him over here. So, you want to talk about mindfulness, ladies and gentlemen? I would like everybody to meet. That's my daughter, Sophia. Sophia, say hi to everybody. Right there in front of you. Okay, she's leaving. This is Milo, everybody. Milo is our new puppy. He's a Havapoo, and he has taught me a lot about patience again in the last 4 days. So, Milo, say hi, buddy. You want to say nothing?
Oh, okay. So
he's a good little boy. So, Milo's eating the mic. Milo, don't eat the mic, buddy. It's no good for you. So, mindfulness came into play this week for me. I was telling you before, right? The first day we brought him home, right? We brought him home on Saturday. The first day we brought him home, I started to get a little bit of anxiety because I wanted him to eat. I was nervous about him. He was a new environment, all this other stuff. And he hadn't eaten that much. This is not going well. There you go. He hadn't eaten that much. And I noticed my anxiety was kind of rising. But if this was in something, so 5, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago, I would have been a mess. Like, I would have been a proverbial mess. Like, I would have hook, line, sinker bought into it. But I was able to watch my thoughts, watch what was going on, and understand that I love the guy. And that's it, right, buddy? Where are you going? Where are you going? But we just wanted Milo to come in and say hello. I'll put you up here for a second, buddy. Come in.
Look at that guy.
Hey, sit down, bud. Sit. Can you sit? No, you don't sit yet. They haven't taught you that. There you go. Good boy. He's a good boy, isn't he? So, now look at this face and tell me you don't want a better world. Come on. Tell me you don't want... Picture, this is what mindfulness looks like. This is what awareness feels like inside. When you have awareness and mindfulness, it feels like a soft, cuddly little Havapoo puppy that loves you, wants to lick you, and wants to play with you, and just has nothing but affection and love in his heart. That's what mindfulness feels like if you have it in you. Like, all that nastiness just kind of goes away, right, buddy? I love you. Okay, Henry, you could talk because I love this guy. He's my buddy. I'm not going to put him down because he hasn't been down here yet into the basement, and I don't know what he's going to eat. Probably the wires in the floor. So we're not going to do that. You could just sit here with Daddy and take a nap if you want. Okay, buddy?
I think it's a very important lesson to learn that mindfulness, I'm not going to say it's the vaccination to anything, right? Meaning you're going to have life, you're going to have people and disagreements and things thrown at you.
Absolutely.
But you have this skill that you develop more and more and more every day. And every day you work on it. Every day you develop it stronger and stronger to the point that you can walk into a room and you kind of have a sense as to who is aware, who's not aware. And there are some people that are aware, but they're not aware they're aware, which is quite interesting to me. I love
Yes.
looking at those things.
Yeah.
And usually the aware person that's not aware they're aware is most of the time a religious person. Most of the time. They're thanks be to God.
Well, I mean, I think that's
my experience.
Yeah.
My personal experience.
Well, it's another because they have a bias built in. Yeah,
that's correct. And it's almost the same.
I should have thought this. They have a bias built in.
Similar tenants. Similar.
Yes, agreed. Yeah.
So if you work on this, you really change the way that you experience life. Because I'm telling you, that conversation, anyone, the political one or the patriotic one, would have set me off. And that's not to say, ready?
It might have set a few people off.
But because that's not to say that should we be invaded and we have to get our guns and go fight for the country that
you're talking about something different,
right? But you're
talking about self-preservation as a human being, which is what our mind's built to do, right? Just to survive. I mean, hopefully, if you have enough people who are like this in the world, that's not an issue anymore. Like it's not. And because I've had this conversation with so many people, and I literally get roasted by people. Like I get roasted by people. Everybody telling me that's utopian thinking. It makes no sense. There's no where do we evolve? What's the point of that? That's never going to happen. Why do we even bother? I'm like, well, you guys are making my point for me. Like nobody wants to even. Everybody wants to just be so the way they are that they're not willing to say, is the way I'm thinking about this right? Is it wrong? Is there a better way? That doesn't involve me, my agenda, our agenda. Well,
when you bring it down to this, when you bring it down to that you were at a party, right? You were at some sort of family function. Do you really think that you're going to resolve anything in a grand?
No, we said that before, right?
Right?
No.
So nothing's going to happen. So what is going to happen is you're going to get upset with each other. You're probably going to end up having a useless, bad conversation, right? And I stress the word useless because neither that person nor you are going to benefit in any way for the yay or for the nay.
No.
And there you are duking out a battle that was just not even supposed to be fought, for the stupidest reason in the world. But I'm going to say this. This will be the last thing I'm going to drop in this conversation we're having. So I believe that there are people that understand this part of the human condition. Like me and you. We understand this part of the human condition.
Yes, and that's key.
But I believe there are people that understand this part of the human condition and they use it for the negative. They use it for the wrong purposes.
So I think there's people who understand this part, realize, sometimes they'll even say that they realize the way they're thinking and still follow it anyway. And that's it's more out of a fear, which is again, the mind saying, well, I this is what I know. 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 Because they're scared. There's a fear of what you don't know in life. There's a fear of what you're not sure about. There's a fear of what your mind can't comprehend. And that's, again, the self-preservation part of the ego, where it says, if it's not like me, it's not for me, I don't want to hear it. And you could have somebody who goes, well, I kind of get what you're saying, but that but that comes in is, but it has to be like this because this is what I know, and I can't comprehend it in any way. And it's just because that light is on too. It's just not bright enough for that person to see how they're being pulled by a biased, a mechanism in their mind, a mechanism in their head that, as Scott Adams said, can like, and I don't listen to him, but there's a couple of, I think he had a lot of people have very nice segues into or ways to get your attention on it, and I like that because we are ever programming. You can reprogram a human being, and I know that sounds, well, what are we, cyborgs? No, it means you don't burn your ego off, but if you shine enough of a light on it, you could evolve to even the way it processes things. Your subconscious could evolve to think openly, more kindly, more morally, more whatever word you want to use, instead of being the way that you think it is. So somebody who is, this is the way I am, this is it. You'll be like that 20 years, you'll be that in 30 years, and on your deathbed, maybe, oh, you get that aha moment and you realize it.
And that's because you want it to be that way.
It's a choice. Choose for the unknown or don't choose it.
And that's evident in all the people that became Zen monks that weren't, but then they are. Or that were, and then they're not. Or I was a priest and then I left and then they're not.
Choice. It's all choice.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just based on those examples, we can program ourselves for our own benefit. So,
yeah.
So that's what I was getting at, and that's what I was saying that I take from the Bob Proctor point of view, where, well, hell, and as a man thinketh, and Earl, you ever heard of Earl Nightingale?
Yes, of course.
Earl Nightingale says, and I believe also it was Napoleon Hill. I'm saying, you become what you think about the most. So.
If you don't have awareness.
Well, I'm saying if all you're doing is stewing on this,
because
negative,
that could be very triggering for a lot of people.
So if you're just stewing on this negative component, right? Yeah. Negative. So the way that you framed your lens is negative. The negative.
Without awareness is what you have no shot in hell. You don't. I mean, yeah, you could have an epiphany of an awakening, sure, but that doesn't happen. I mean, really, I mean, usually maybe it could be a life event that maybe shakes you up, but yeah, no, if you program yourself to think negative and you believe it and you don't see that there's a better way, you don't think there's a better way, you don't have any awareness because you're not in control by letting go of control. You have no control over it because you have no awareness. So in other words, you are on autopilot. What chance do you give yourself? Yeah. You don't.
It's the autopilot.
Yes, the autopilot. Yeah. So I could have a mind that wants to go to negative because of the way it's just been, brought up and environment, and a lot of it's something genetically speaking.
We already saw what that did. We already saw what that did to us.
Yeah.
We already had that experience.
Yeah.
We chose another experience.
So you get to a crossroads sometimes in life. You get to a point where life, the universe, God, whatever word you want to use, presents to you an opportunity. Here's your opportunity. Do you want to continue down that path or you want to go down this road? Well, this road right now is freaking the shit out of me. There's got to be a better way. All of a sudden, I'm thinking, I don't like that I'm thinking. So you're so, I mean, I could use my OCD examples. We've used them so many times with my OCD experiences, how I didn't like what I was thinking. For me, that was my aha. That was my moment where I don't like what I'm thinking. How could I not like what I'm How do I not like what I'm thinking? Right. Wait a second. I don't like but if I'm thinking it, how can I not like it?
Did you choose that thought?
So there's two of us in me? There's more than two of you. The ego will give you multiple voices, multiple things to think about. And if you're somebody who's genetically predisposed to anxiety or something like that, these thoughts could be provoking to you. But when you realize, I don't like what I'm thinking, hold on a second. So they're not my thoughts. Okay? I don't like that I'm such a hard ass this side or that side, or I'm so hell bent that life has to be the American way or the that way or the that way or the his way or the my way, or it's only one way. I don't like that I'm so I have this tunnel vision. If you could sit here and say, I don't like that I have this tunnel vision, how can you not like what you're thinking? Because it means those thoughts aren't technically yours. They're not. You're witnessing. You're actually noticing that you're witnessing them for the first time. Now you get to make a choice. If you don't like it, you could choose to be the guy who joins the Zen monastery. Or like Alex Mills, who's a spiritual teacher who I worked with personally, and I follow him. was in one for 14 years, and then one day said, now I'm going to leave. Not because there was something wrong with the Zen monastery, because he wanted to choose a different path in life, wanted to help people, wanted to do something else. So he left and he came back home, right? So you could make that choice at any time in your life. You could be a priest who decides one day, I want to have a family.
Yeah.
You're not telling God to go, whatever, or no.
Yeah.
He wants children. He wants to experience that in life, and he chooses a different path. But you have to have a certain awareness that you don't like where you are or how things are going to make that choice. So imagine we have more of that in the world, where people were aware of what was going on and made choices that was, in the benefit of. I know it's hard to concentrate with him and me.
No, he's not concentrating. He's like everywhere.
Yeah, I love you, buddy. I love you. This is what I tell you. This is what awareness feels like right here. A soft, cuddly little puppy. That's all it is.
He's adorable.
Yeah, that's all it is. But no, I agree, and I don't know. I'd be curious when people listen to this episode. We don't get many comments, but like if we get a couple on this one, because it was provoking, but it was
meant to provoke.
Yes.
And by the way,
it was calculated.
We don't plan out episodes anymore, in case anybody's wondering.
No, we just go.
Yeah, we turn it on and we go. And this was a good one. I think it was a good one. I think it was the kind of one that I would say it touches your nuts. What the hell?
Well, I think it's mirroring what's happening in the world today. And I personally, as a human being, in general, the whole world, I just don't. I'm not a fan of what I see. As a species, as people who are living on one planet together, a floating rock in the middle of nowhere, right? Where things need to be a certain way for us to even exist. Like there's got to be something greater that allows all this to happen. And we're so small in our mentalities because we have because it's a lot of I's and not enough we's in the world. It's a lot of I because America's got to be the best. Italy's got to be the best. Asia's got to be China's got to be the best. Russia's got to be the best. England's got to be the best. I hate that country. I hate this country. It's a lot of I's. If we became a world of we's, and I know, look, I guess my vision for the future is every spiritual teacher's vision, where people live in awareness. I get that. And I won't stop talking about it, and I don't think Henry will either, until my last breath, in the hope that the people around us,
I think
get influenced by it a little bit. I think
civilization.
I know it's a little bit of a rant, but whatever.
Yeah, I think civilization sort of mimics the life of a human being, because the life of a human being is not stagnant. It's made up of
evolving.
Yeah, it's evolving. So it's made up of different things, different experiences, different events, some negative, some positive. And I think civilization goes through periods just like your life. So it could be going through a dark time right now, and then it'll go into a light time. For example, when the era of what's it, the machine era? When's the
industrial era?
The industrial era.
Yeah.
When the industrial era kind of revolutionized everything, kind of revolutionized the way we look at life, because there was a moment where there was this thing called a fridge. What? Yeah, a fridge. And a dishwasher. What? So literally, a car. That changed life. So at that moment, you could say, well, we were living in the dark ages, and now we came out, and now we're in we could be doing that again. We could be having similar, let's say, parallels right now. It's our duty, individual, and then eventually collective. But right now, individual, it's our individual duty to make sure that we don't get sucked away into that negative, into the hole of negativity, because number one, you have the option to, and number two, it's not beneficial. So if it's not beneficial, let's continue to focus on what we can, let's say, affect. And if that's positivity, well, then that's the lens that we want to use. And that's all. So that's basically what I was saying before. What you were saying is, don't get caught up in the political angle, even though internally you may have a debate. internally you may have that this fucking guy's a moron. You may have that but there is no benefit to anybody if you outwardly engage in a blind reaction, right? So if anything, engage in a thought response, a thoughtful response that you've thought through, that you can see yourself from 20,000 feet above, and you can see that this is going to lead to a fight or some sort of stupid argument that nobody's going to win. What for? So very simple. You know what? You think that way, but you know what? You have a cute puppy, and I like you anyway. Even though you don't vote the same way as I do, I think that those little guys are great. And you know what? Next time you have a barbecue, let me know. I'll come over and we'll have it. Literally like that. Literally focus on, what is beneficial, and do not feed the negative wolf. Feed the positive wolf.
Absolutely.
That's it. Speaking of wolves.
What are you licking on my pants? Yeah, so I mean, I hope I hope somehow, some way,
yeah, it was
whatever we spoke about today,
it resonated.
Yeah, I hope it resonated. It's a little bit of,
look at that,
big yawn. Yeah, it's a little bit of hope, or a better outlook that we kind of want, for the world moving forward. And today's conversation was more globally, was more community based, like for people in general to think, to act differently. But it all starts with the individual.
Yeah.
Right. So a community is made up by a bunch of individuals, and if you have aware individuals, you're gonna have a better community. So that's really it. I probably could have said that 45 minutes ago. But, sorry.
No.
Sorry, I got a puppy in my hand 15 minutes ago, and I went to brain mush.
It's all good.
My brain went to mush. All right. I think we're good.
All right, peeps.
All right. So thank you, everybody, for coming. Milo, say goodbye to everybody.
Milo
goodbye.
signs off.
Milo signs off. Peace out. Milo will be a special guest when he gets older. And we'll talk to you guys soon.
All right.
All right, man. Take care.
Pleasure.
Bye. The insights and discussions that we speak about on our show are our own opinions and based on our life experiences. If you or someone in your family or someone you know is suffering and in need of help, please get them that help through medical attention or seeking proper therapy. Again, what we speak about are based on our experiences and not intended to be taken as a form of therapy. Thank you.